Good morning, YouTube! It is, at long last, finals week. Yep. Finals week. At least in Scarecova's world, that's what it is. Maybe it's out there at Hanukkah for some of you, Christmas for others, Kwanzaa. Is it Ramadan? Ramadan in winter this year? I don't even know. But in my world, it's finals week. And so, that is why I have not been posting very much lately. And I am deeply sorry for that. But, you know, life requires what it requires. And there we are. So, little Ben and I thought we would take a chance to come on here and give our thoughts on another Rational Roundtable video. And I know you guys on YouTube are probably starting to think that, you know, it's going to be hard to tell where Rational Roundtable ends and I begin. But I had to offer my thoughts on this because I have a perspective that strikes me as so different from what is explored in his video that I just had to share it. And it's not entirely mine. I can't take complete credit for it. This is one of a few areas where I dip into the well of the new atheist movement. Yeah, I'll give you that for you. And it comes from Sam Harris, this idea. I'm not entirely sold on it necessarily, but let's say, at the very least, I found it highly intriguing. And what he proposes is an objective morality from an atheist perspective. And what he says is basically this. It is silly for us to say that we cannot observe moral truths about our reality. And that it's obvious that certain things are moral and that certain other things are immoral. And that all we need to do is dedicate ourselves to understanding what is actually going on there, and we'll understand an objective morality. An objective morality that does not appeal to a God. Now here are my thoughts on this. If reality is objective, here's what's going on. We have the objective morality of how we respond to things with subjective value. Those two things are working is an objective morality, a subjective value. Now what do I mean by that? Let's take this bag of animal crackers. Let's refer specifically to the bag. The bag has 3 animal crackers in it right now, which is more than enough for you to have one, for Daddy to have one. Of course, not only has one animal cracker, but has a certain utility to me, certain usefulness. If you were to come into this room right now and take this plastic bag away from me, and let us assume, for the sake of argument, that this is not being done in a vacuum. The action itself is not arbitrary. The person taking the bag, regardless of the nature of the scenario, has a complete understanding of my feelings toward the plastic bag. Now, while it has the animal cracker in it, as I said, it has a utility, it has a function for me. It has a value to me. If they come in and they take it right now, with the animal cracker inside of it, they are, to my mind, stealing from me, from little Ben, and that would irritate me, that would upset me, that would be immoral. It would be something that almost anyone would consider, at the very least, rude. Now, if they take it from me because, I don't know, let's say the animal cracker is poisoned. No, it's not poisoned. I would not give little Ben poisoned animal crackers. Don't even think that, YouTube. But let's say this person has what they consider to be good reasons to believe that it is poison, and for that reason, they take it away. In that case, assuming that they're polite enough to explain it to me, at least, before they just walk out, I will understand and I will agree that what they did was moral. Of course, you alright, little bud? A little congested. So, I don't know. Little Ben and I have finished the animal crackers. This bag is empty. And it's used. It's not fresh and clean. It has little traces of animal cracker dust in it. These things aren't meant to last forever, so it is now something that I consider garbage. At this point, I will be submitting it to a container where it is literally intended by me that people will come and carry it away. I've actually paid for the privilege of people coming and taking away my material waste. And so it will become a moral action. It will become the fulfillment of someone's duty to come and take this plastic bag away. Now, the function of the action hasn't changed. To some extent, the consequences have changed. But I'm not totally sold on appealing to consequentialism in terms of my morality. I don't reject consequentialism. I think consequentialism and utilitarianism... You're okay, bud. I have a lot to say about this, but I don't think they're the end-all and be-all of this new objective morality. I think it has to do with my subjective value. Actions have an objective moral quality in response to my, or anyone else's, subjective values. Now, let's say right now, this plastic bag is useless to me. It has no particular utility to me. Let's say, and that my neighbor across the hall is a very big advocate of recycling. And they don't want me to throw this in the garbage. They want it to be recycled. And my decision of whether to recycle it or not will affect not only his feeling on how that should be disposed of, but also it will affect materially the world itself and other people's things that they subjectively value. Now, I happen to personally have some very specific doubts about recycling, but that would bog down this discussion, so we're not going to get into that. So as you can see, like anything worth studying, this new objective morality is complex. And I want to say that I can foresee many criticisms mistaking the complexity of interpreting this new objective morality with incoherence. Just because it's coherent doesn't mean it's simple. Of course, it's not simple. The disposition of this particular plastic bag is trivial in scale, but whether it's recycled, say, or thrown away, say, or reused, say, is of some importance to someone. And teasing out exactly what the best decision is might be complicated. Now, for example, I could reuse this and do something else with it, but on the other hand, I might have other just generally good reasons to get it out of my house. I don't want it here anymore. It's clutter. I have too much stuff here. It's cluttering up. It's impacting our quality of life, let's say. It's complex. It takes real labor and work to tease out what's the best decision. And very often, there will be conflicts. An action that's preserves the value of one individual. In other words, preserves the things that person values. Also, at the same time, attacks the values of another individual. And we have to start questioning, whose values are more powerful. In other words, whose value is more invested in something, whose value is more legitimate in the first place. Let's deal with a good example of that. Let's take the often used example of Hitler and killing 6 million Jews. He killed a lot of people, not just Jews, also gypsies and cripples and Catholics, and he killed a lot of people. But for simplicity's sake, we'll just stick with the Jews. Pretty clearly, Hitler had value invested in eradicating Jews as a race and as a group because of for his reasons dealing with his perception of reality. At the same time, each of those 6 million Jews and their various friends and families had value invested in them not dying. On the other hand, lots of Germans who agreed with Hitler had value invested in his ideology. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we couldn't decide this simply by saying whose value is strongest, who has the most invested value. I think we could. It would be pretty clear to see that the lives of those people were much invested with much more value than the political and philosophical feelings of Hitler and his followers. But let's say, for the sake of argument, we couldn't appeal to that. It would be pretty simple to say that Hitler's value investment was based on a perception of reality that was flawed. It was not grounded in reality. It was not correct. It was not accurate. His beliefs about the causes of Germany's problems, his beliefs about the characteristics of Jews, his beliefs about what was good for the German state, in the literal sense of what consequences would arise from what decisions, those were all inaccurate. That immediately disqualifies his value investments on the topic. Where it really gets interesting is, let's talk about things like killing another human being. Killing me is immoral in this system because I have value in my life. Little Ben has value in the life of his father and his provider. And little Ben's mother has value invested in the love of her life, I like to think, and her protector and companion and part-time provider and co-caregiver for little Ben. There are all sorts of other people that have value invested in my life. So even if I were to suddenly become suicidal, it would not become moral for someone to kill me. But one could see, hypothetically, in a scenario where there were an individual who had no value invested in their own continued existence, and no one else had any particular value invested in it either, where it might become moral or morally neutral to kill that person, given assuming a knowledge of that fact. I don't know that that's the case. I think that's exactly the kind of thing where we need to look into it some more. And you should really listen to Sam Harris's lectures on it. I think my dimension of subjective value is probably something that, well, I'm sure it's something that he's thought of in one form or another, but it's not something he's particularly included in his lectures. So I invite you to give that some thought and tell me what you think about that. In the meantime, that is my contribution to this discussion. I think that the idea of atheist subjective morality and Christian objective morality is a false dichotomy. I think that, well, Rational Roundtable seems to advocate a species of Christian subjective morality. I'm not 100% sure that I buy that. It sounds like you talk about it like it's subjective morality, but it also sounds a little bit objective at the same time. So, you haven't sold me, but okay, fair enough. It's more than enough to conclude that this is not as black and white, A and B dichotomy as it is often portrayed to be in our debates on the topic. So, thanks for listening, YouTube. Little Ben, obviously, is feeling whiny. I think he needs a diaper change. We'll be back with you later. Peace. And as I said, thanks for listening.